Let's take a look now at the Human Rights Festival, which is in full swing at Constitution Hill. The two-day event is a mix of a debate, dialogue, art exhibitions, film screenings and workshops. The festival commemorates Human Rights Day, which was marked on the 21st of March, and remembers that date in 1960 when 69 people who were protesting peacefully were killed by apartheid police. For more on this, we're joined by our reporter Katleho Sekhotho. Katleho, great to catch up with you this afternoon. I can imagine such a mishmash of entertainment and information that's occurring there this afternoon.
Absolutely, Hugo. We are here at Constitution Hill, where the Human Rights Festival is in full swing, really. You know, the cold weather hasn't deterred people from coming here in their numbers. And as you rightfully say, there's a plethora of activities taking place, dialogues, debates, film screenings, as well as art exhibitions. And this day, or this festival, is really about commemorating the 21st of March, which we marked earlier this week on Tuesday, of Human Rights Day. And just to give me a bit more, I have with me the director of one of the films that was screened here a few moments ago. That is Diliza Moabi. He is the director of a film called A Decent Path. And the film is really focused on the 350 Rand grant that people receive. And remember, if you recall, that grant was initiated during the COVID-19 pandemic. But to give me more, Hugo, Diliza, I just want to bring you in here. Thanks for speaking to us. I mean, this film is about the grant that we've seen being rolled out over the last few years. It was sparked by the COVID-19 pandemic. As a filmmaker, what was the process behind putting this film together?
Well, I think the process for me was more about even the process and the transformations that I went through doing the film, because it might be about the 350 grant, but it's beyond that, in a sense that this is an NGO-based documentary film. And the people who are involved with this have been advocating for what is called universal basic income for the longest of years, way beyond 2020 when we went into lockdown. And the idea really is that, like, especially if you look at a country like South Africa, we'll never get to a point where we completely eradicate unemployment or poverty. Then the question is that, like, what do you do with people who are unemployed? Just to give an example, out of the multitude of people who applied for the grant, the 350 grant, about 720,000 of them are unemployed graduates. So now you gotta think, like, if you were raised in a society that says, like, go to school, get an education, get a diploma, get a degree, and then after that your life will be great, and then you do all of that, and you still find yourself in a situation you have to apply for a grant just in order to survive. We gotta think about it, and the film really speaks about those challenges that we have as a country. What do we do? Because we need to quickly admit that we need to stop talking about we're going to create employment. And then the debate needs to be about what do we do if we can't create enough jobs. Yeah. And that's what the film is about. Yeah.
Diliza, I want to ask you another one. I mean, people who are recipients of the grant, some have said it's not enough. Others say, look, it gets me by here and there. In your filmmaking process, were you cognizant of the various views from recipients or people who are affected by the pandemic, unemployment, whether the amount is enough or not?
Yeah, that's one of the things that we dealt with. And I mean, the simplest example is that, like, in the past 2-3 years, we got to factor in inflation. So one thing that comes out from the film, from people who do research, who advises in the policy front, is that, like, you know, 350 Rand today, or 350 Rand in 2020 is no longer 350 Rand today. So that money is not enough. So definitely there's a lot of challenges. However, the sentiment is that, like, for the recipients, most people that we spoke to, is that, like, they will accept any amount, which is very humbling, that they get even though they would prefer that it can be raised. So it's not enough, yet at the same time, they're grateful that they get something. Yeah.
And from your perspective, going through the motions of putting this film together, do you think there's a greater role government needs to play in the coordinating of what the grant looks like, the amount that we just spoke about? Do these debates need to be ongoing with government?
I wish it was not debates anymore. I wish it was, we could decide like this is what government needs to do. Because we get bogged down in semantics, like is it government, is it private sector, is it government? For me, in any country, I think the government holds the highest power. So even if they expected private sector to do something, it shouldn't come from private sector. It needs to come from government. They need to put down private sector and force them, whether through its taxes, whatever it is, for government to be able to take care of its citizens. I mean, this is something that it's partially comes out in a form where you find out through research and that so many countries around the world take care of its citizens through whatever you want to call it, grant. Whereas here, we debate a lot about whether government should be putting out social grants and such things. In first world countries, you have people in Europe during lockdown who are getting 70% of their salaries, regardless how much they were earning. Here we're debating about like why should we be giving people 350 rand? Like, it's like well-off country that can take care of its people, and they still give them 70% of their salaries. And that's why for many of those countries they could lock down their country for such a long time. Here, what do you do with 350 rand? The most that you can do.
Yeah.
So,
all right. Thank you so much for that, Deliza. Thank you very much. Hugo, you heard there from filmmaker Deliza Moabi speaking about the film A Decent Path, focused on the 350 Rand grant. And we know this grant was initiated during the pandemic, and really outlining that, it shouldn't be up for debate whether people get a grant or not, this basic universal income, that it actually should be a right, a basic human right. And so there is a lot more happening here at Conhill. I will have more for you, art exhibitions, as I said, as well as dialogues and workshops as well. So there's a lot going on here at Conhill for this Human Rights Festival.
Katleho, before we let you off the hook, I must ask about some of the subjects of conversation that obviously would have been had, when you talk about human rights. I mean, there are issues that are happening in Uganda at the moment with the bill that is up for signing. Certainly that speaks out condemns rather in a rather ruthless manner the rights of those in the LGBTQI plus community. Are those some of the conversations that would have come up at all?
Absolutely, Hugo. I mean, the topic of the anti-homosexuality bill there in Uganda also being a theme here. It's about human rights. So all facets of being human are being discussed here. So not just LGBTQ rights, but as well as the elections coming up next year. Do you know the rights you have as a voter? And do you know the rights you have as a participant, as a citizen? Do you know how to be a citizen that is proactive and that feels like you have power to decide? So it's a various topics, the subjects that are being discussed here, are being debated, and really you can feel around here that people came with the intention to have really robust discussions.
Katleho Sekhotho, appreciate your time this afternoon, and she's coming to us from the Human Rights Festival.